Welcome to the Property and Coffee Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Atkinson.
I'm Matt Skehan.
We'll be fueling your financial future one coffee and property insights at a time.
Helping you navigate the property market like a pro.
Hello, and what a pleasure it is to have your company on the Property and Coffee Podcast, where we are going to be fueling your financial future one coffee and property insights at a time. I'm your host, Matt Atkinson, joined by my co-host, Matt Skehan, and today we're chatting with Dennis Armfield. Dennis is a former AFL star turned high-performance consultant at the Elevation Company. He's also a driving force behind community initiatives, which we'll touch on today, being the M.E.N brotherhood. Welcome, Dennis.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Before we get into it, we're just going to touch on some of the themes that we're going to be covering off today, and then we'll get stuck into our agenda. So firstly, we're going to take a bit of a journey back, just touch on the AFL engine room and talk about some of the high performance and team environments. We'll then talk about the transition, moving away from being in the professional sporting world and that conversion through into the boardroom or into a consulting role. We'll deep dive a bit into people-led culture and then touch on a bit around community and connection. Matty, I'm going to hand over to you to get us rolling.
Cheers, Matty. So welcome, Dennis, mate. So
thank you.
Tough question first off.
Bit different to a golf course, isn't it?
No, contrary to belief, I don't just play golf. Thanks for bringing that one up. That's appreciate that. So your favourite coffee, mate, and where can we find you in Melbourne getting your favourite brew? Mate,
Yeah,
given we have the Property and Coffee podcast.
Look, I'm just a generic cappuccino. I love my froth and my chocolate.
Generic cappuccino as opposed to
little sweet boy here. And I go to a local cafe called Bacon Brew out in Bacchus Marsh on Main Street there. So lovely ladies, very passionate about their coffee, very passionate about their people, similar to me. So always a joy to go down there for a morning coffee.
Awesome. Beautiful.
I feel like you'd have a little marshmallow on the side there. Just
look, they might throw the odd marshmallow or a cookie in every now and then. Yeah, we got to spoil ourselves every now and then.
Oh, that's it, mate. That's it. Well, let's jump in. So the first item we're going to be touching on is just talking a bit around high performance environments. So just touching back, and for the listeners, we'll touch on a bit on your footy, sort of your footy background. But when you're in that professional sporting environment, 1% shifts in a performance can really dictate the difference between winning and losing. So, whether it be a property investor or someone that's in business and they're looking to grow, what is the one high performance habit that you've learned from your playing days where you would say that's a marker for success for someone to implement, whether that be in their personal or sort of professional life?
Yeah, I think, look, I love the question because when you talk about growth, we can sometimes get caught up in 10, 20, 30, 40% shifts. And bringing it back down to the 1 to 5% was something that we were instilled in professional sport because you've got 700 or so athletes in AFL now. They're all fine-tuned athletes. They're all doing the same thing. So what are you doing to find that 1 or extra percent that can, A, get you a game in your own team because it's 44 or 46 blokes fighting for 22 spots, but B, then get you ahead of your opponent. And one of the things I think was consistency. I think consistency of being able to show up, consistency. We always had a thing where being available for 80% is better than being in and out, going at 100%. And I think with everything that we do, being consistent, but also being curious. And I think one of the things that I learned throughout my career, probably not in the early days, I thought I knew it all, but the power of curiosity. And that's in asking questions, in seeking feedback, being curious about everything and having those that you can trust around you and that you can ask the right questions, get the right answers that are going to help you on your journey. And I think when I look for those 1 to 5%, it's consistency, curiosity. And then I think the last thing I sort of noted down, was that have a go. I think failure is something that in the professional industry of football, like you've got to fail fast, learn fast, get on with it and grow. And I think that's something that we can also take into our business landscape, property development, property investing, whatever it is. Like have a go with trusted advisors and trusted people around you.
Don't be scared of failure. You can always, sun's going to rise the next day and hopefully you can go again.
Yeah. And, again, we're looking for 1 to 5% tweaks, and sometimes it's going to go wrong. And it's about knowing, well, that's not going the right way. Cut my losses. Let's move on to another way. And I think that was the joy of football. It was, you didn't have time to wait till tomorrow, because tomorrow meant you weren't selected. Tomorrow meant you weren't part of the team. Tomorrow meant you were running out in the VFL squad on a Sunday and not in the beautiful cover of a Etihad Stadium or something like that. So, you had to do it. You had to go. But I think, consistently showing up and consistently being curious about the world around us, about the people around us, about the culture. They're the things that I think just led us to being able to survive for me for 10 years in a system that was pretty cutthroat.
No, good points.
A lot of things there, mate. A lot of take homes. So, just keeping into that's a high performance space at the moment, mate. So the elite level, and I was as you pointed out, it was a golf day, and it was a high level rugby league player, and he spoke a lot about that, the feedback and the open, sort of culture. But like I suppose in the day to day life these days, people don't always want the hard truths. But obviously in footy, I imagine you would have been shaped by just that honest reality of feedback, with that feedback loop. How did you learn to embrace that uncomfortable feedback in your past life, and how's that sort of translated to, I suppose, what you do now, right? Like it's a lot of parallels really between sport and business. There's so many parallels really. So
100%. And I think when I actually when you asked that question, I smiled because how did you become? One of our coach, Brendan Bolton, said, "Be comfortable with the uncomfortable." And we can sometimes tell a story or a belief that we've had since we were knee-high to a grasshopper that we just need to keep breaking. And I think AFL, there was no place to hide. Like everything gets analysed. You look at the game now. Fans at home probably know more about the game than I do playing the game, who played the game 10 years, and I think feedback became data. And when you can look at feedback as data, it allows you to make decisions. And I think what we do in the business world, what we do in society, sporting world, property, when you get awareness, it provides you with insight. And then from that insight, you can have a choice.
Yep.
And then what's more powerful from that choice, you can live your, what we call freedom or your intentional path. And I think you can always choose to go left, even if the world's telling you to go right. But as long as you can stay aligned to that, and it's your intentional path, and whatever happens from that path, you can accept because you've now made the decision that's best aligned to who you be. And I think when it comes to feedback, trying to remove the personal attachment to it, and trying to hear that we have a saying called the assumption of good, and whoever's giving you the feedback, if you can receive it and give it with the assumption of good, that person's trying to do the best by you, for you, with you, alongside you, then ultimately you're going to take that or receive that feedback in a different way. And for me, in a cutthroat world where you weren't getting selected, I could control two things: how I received the feedback and then what I did with that. And I think if I receive it with a against me, or they're against me type attitude, a victim mentality, then I'm going to get victim mentality results. And that's where I think that's how I ended up dealing with it. It was about creating the systems to accept it, acknowledge it, and then be able to make the changes, or in a world that we've probably forgotten now, celebrate what I'm actually doing well. Feedback's not always negative. And I think in today's society, we've lost the ability to celebrate as much as we should. It's just his job, or it's just her role. Yeah, it is, but they're paid good money to do those things. Let's celebrate that a little bit more. And I think that's what I try to bring out through feedback, through the Elevation Company and what we do with businesses. It's about celebrate, go on a journey. You brought up golf, and when you finish a round of golf, you go into the clubhouse, you talk about the great drive, you talk about the great chip, even if you've had 150.
If you 1 or 2 good shots keeps you coming back.
And that's what keeps you coming back. And I think in business, what are the 1 or 2 great shots that are bringing you back? And I think you spoke about the feedback loop and the world that we live in, but some of the best feedback's the feedback you give to yourself. And I think the ability to create space within your calendar to slow down and reflect on your journey and reflect on how you showed up, owning that, being accountable for that. And I think that's some of the most powerful feedback, because that's where it's going to hit, where it matters most, your heart, rather than your head.
You're right, mate. I think the badge of honour to be busy these days, but it's not
Oh,
really productive. And I think you asked that question, how are you going? It's busy. It's almost like that's a
Standard response.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it doesn't
and
give
is
you
it
any insight.
effective?
It doesn't. No, it's yeah. So I think
I think busy's
yeah.
great. We all want to be busy. I think no one wants to sit around twiddling their thumbs. But what are you busy doing, and who are you busy being? More
Yeah,
importantly,
you need your compass, and yeah. So I'm sure we'll touch on that a bit more. So
I mean, mate, I like being busy podcasting, I'll
Yeah.
be honest. And I just want to make a point. You brought up something about hitting 150. This man over here doesn't even know about that. He's golfing so much at the moment. We're looking at single digit handicap.
well, look, lucky some. We can have those days, can't we? But I think that we always just bring back the good, and it's a sport that I'm fascinated by because, yeah, I can go and play golf with a mate that's never hit a golf ball. He can hit 200 and still reflect on the one or two shots, and he goes, "If only I did that more often, I could be a pro." And that's what drags you back. And I think in life, in business, as a parent, as a father, as a son, what's the one good golf shot that keeps dragging you back? Because that's what energizes you for the next day.
100%.
That's true. You got to keep on moving. Let's just touch on the support ecosystem. So in the property space, we talk about, you got the engine room of the deal. So that would be your experts involved, your conveyancers, potentially your mortgage broker, buyer's advocates, would all be there to around helping the buyer get to a point where they're executing and making a good purchasing decision, whatever that looks like for them, whether that's an investment property, place to live in. Just drawing a parallel back around sports. So in that high performance environment, to what extent did you also have that team of experts, whether that be nutritionists, coaches, or tacticians, just help you manage the noise and essentially provide a bit of that safety net where you can, have that singular focus on actually performing every weekend?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you'd hear it in today's society. Like if you're not listen to the noise within the four walls, especially in the AFL landscape, and it couldn't be more true because unless you're walking your day in their shoes, knowing what they're doing, I insert the team that I played for in Carlton right now. They're in the news right now for Michael Voss. And unless you're in there, you can't have an opinion really. And I think that was the one good thing that I loved about the AFL landscape is the team was there. You had a doctor on pretty much on call, physios on call. If you had an issue with your body, you had an issue with your mind, you had someone that could come and support you. You had someone to reach out to. And I think you could remove the noise and be focused on the performance. And sometimes, you have to do a self-check to be on point for performance. And I think in the world of business, in the world of as leaders, sometimes we can try to carry too much. And we think because we've got a leadership title through years of service, through wisdom, whatever it is, that we've got to have all the answers or we've got to know it all. And the world's forever changing. The people within our organizations are forever changing. The needs and wants of those people are forever changing. And I think the more that leaders can be open, honest, vulnerable, and real, it's going to lead to better quality conversations. It's going to lead to better engagement. It's going to lead to far better ownership, accountability, which ultimately for a business gets far better ROIs. And it also creates better connections. And we have a saying at the Elevation Company is that we're all in the business of relationships. And I think the stronger that your relationships are with your people, with yourself, it's only going to lead to better quality outcomes, whether that is personally, professionally, or insert another word that ends with Lee.
No, but you're right. And just to touch on the business side of things, you think about a business coach or mentor is something I think that's now a bit more popular. Whereas in years gone by, it was, very much, not a lot of people would have them unless maybe it was someone in the C-suites, and people are realizing, well, I might be the leader of my organization, but where's my team of people that I can lean on? Otherwise, how are we going to get better or perceived to improve if you don't have that team around you, regardless of seniority?
And I think it's, strong organizations have strong ecosystems, and you don't need to have all the right answers. You just need to have the right people. And I think now it takes for that leader to be vulnerable, to go first. We have a saying, and I'll get to the M.E.N program, but about going first. And it's amazing how many leaders, when they show that they don't have an answer, or when they show that they want support, or when they show that they need help, that actually opens up in the ripple. And I think when you talk about the ecosystem, all you got to do is throw the first pebble in the water. You'll see the first 2 or 3 ripples, but those ripples go until they hit a wall or hit the bank on the other side. And I think that's the that's the power of being a strong leader, being a strong person in community, or being an athlete. It's about throwing those ripples to people that can help grab, and you can see the first 2 or 3, but then, hashtag they're always watching, that people say, like, it's like a kid. Some of the things that my daughter now does at 5, I go, I never taught her that, but she's just watched me innately do that. It's the same as your people in business. So if you're holding on to things, dealing with stress and anxiety in a different way, they're going to grab that and they're going to think that's the norm. So I think for a business, it's about sharing the load, having open communication, calling on your doctors, your medical team, your nutritionist to ultimately help you get the best outcome for yourself, which will then ultimately create the best outcome for the business or those around you.
Yeah, good points.
Oh, well said, mate. So transitioning now from your footy to your professional life, you mentioned you got the little shirt there, which is a little bit of branding for the Elevation Company, mate, which is great.
Represent.
So many people struggle with identity when they change careers, and like obviously I've done that myself. I was a physio, and obviously completely uprooted myself, which I realise is not as common as but for me it felt a natural progression. But you've obviously had a big change going from a very structured, rigid environment in footy and sport, and you've obviously successfully moved into the consulting space. But obviously now working with the people you work with, what's some of the the rookie mistake you often see these professionals make? Because often you might be dealing with people who are at the top of their professional game, but as a leader and stuff, they're probably a rookie. I suppose you touched on that before. How people often they're not taught this stuff until they're probably or too late. Really, is probably the right word, right? They're already in a leadership role. So
it's an interesting one. I struggled with identity. I look, since I was knee high to a grasshopper, I had some sort of sport connotation attached to my name. Like I was either the fast guy, the footy guy, the athlete, the soccer guy, the softball guy, whatever it was. That's what I got my sense of belonging and sense of connection through. And then I'd get introduced to people later in my life and later in my career as this is the footballer, Dennis Armfield. So my brand was known there before my name even got introduced. And when I left, I was like, what am I? And it was fascinating. I had a mentoring program not long ago, and I was talking to a man, and I sort of said, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm so many more. I'm so many more things than what I was, that athlete. And he said to me, you're a human being. Enjoy being a human being. That's a lucky place to be. And I think when I touched on, and when I saw the question, I hear the question, and I think of the rookie mistakes. I think we think culture just happens. Culture doesn't just happen.
No,
you have to invest in your culture. You have to give time to your culture. The old saying, what you walk past, you accept. All those little things matter. And I think the one thing that the AFL world provided for me was standards were kept daily. We were held to account from sun up to sundown, like you said, highly regimented. In January 1st, I knew what I was doing on December 31st. Like I could tell you my calendar that strict. I was diligent with what I ate. And in that environment, that created that standards, culture, the way of being, what it means to represent Carlton Football Club and its community was kept daily. And I think in business, the rookie mistake that I see when, people are transitioning or get to a position, like they just think it's going to happen. And I think it's not just going to happen.
You forget what gets you, I think, as well, even the elite and even what you guys were talking about rugby before. I don't have a lot to add, but I remember the All Blacks, the sweep in the sheds sort of analogy, right? Like that's like, so it doesn't matter who you are, right? You're not above anything, but that sets the standard, the tone, that's what I take from all that as well. So you just
And leadership's a difficult place to be. It is.
It's a lonely place sometimes, right?
It is.
Because you're the last to hear things, and you are separated a little in a way from the team. Like it's a different. It's not a level playing field, really. Like it's to a degree.
100%. And I think I'm going to get the quote wrong, but I think you're 40% more successful at what you're. 40% more of a chance of being successful in your role within an organisation if you're a cultural fit. And so many of us are so technically skilled, focused. But we don't pay attention to the cultural fit.
So high attitude, train for skill. So that's my favourite one. Like, having grown my team recently, I like attitudes like over technical skill every day of the week, because you can't change that, right? Like,
well, if you've got the right people, you can teach them.
Correct.
You can teach them. If you've got the wrong people, they're going to be set in their ways. And again, I think sometimes a rookie mistake is we can settle for inconsistencies, or we can settle for we can settle out to the lowest common denominator for too long, and we can sit in that space for too long. And I think that was one thing that I learnt in my AFL career and post is set the bar high and raise to it. Bring the water level up. Don't sink.
Even if you only get 80% there, right? You're still going to be way better off than maybe.
Bail big, isn't it?
Of course, bail big. And, in the world that we live in now, I think, what is it? 30% of people are rowing against you in your business.
Which you don't even know about.
Which is kind of scary to think about. You've got 4 or so people. Or
I'm just fighting the government and Trump and the wars and inflation. You're fighting your own team.
You're fighting everyone.
Your own family.
And you are, and I sit there and I go, like, how many people, are thoroughly invested in your business? And that's because if you create a culture where people are seen, heard, loved, got bad English, but for who they truly are, they walk into those doors with no barriers, no guards, willing to jump on board the vision of that business leader, of the team, and do whatever they can to achieve that. And I think that's the one rookie mistake, going back to your question, is, don't just think it's going to happen. Invest in it.
It's a really good one, because I think sometimes we just do, right? Like, I think people get a title or whatever, they think it's just going to happen, right? But you forget the basics and you get ahead of yourself type thing. That one as well, right? Like you said, you just got to be present, be in the moment, and
well, you think of the values that people want. It's connection, clarity, trust, love. For 3 men in a podcast to say the word love can be frowned upon sometimes, but I think it's all that we want. It's all that we want in life, and I think if you can create a workplace that allows people to have that, with high accountability, high reward in terms of acknowledgements, then you're doing a lot right in the world of business, property, family, or life. And I think that's what you want to try to create to the best of your ability.
We're going to switch up a little bit and look a bit more closely as culture, and that is a tangible asset within an organization. So for this one, it'd be good to delve into some of your current experience with your clients, and just want to understand maybe a scenario where you've gone in to assist an organization and at a high level, they've looked like everything's in check and the operating environment is extremely positive. But when you went in there, maybe the culture wasn't exactly as was perceived. So we'd just be interested for our listeners to understand a bit more and unpack that, what you're seeing or what people are experiencing in the work culture that maybe they can take some learnings from.
Yeah, look, there's many businesses that are successful from the outside looking in. It depends what your definition of success is. And many of us, success is the financial revenue or the profit and loss and how that reads. And you can go into an organization, and a lot of the organizations I work with aren't at the bottom per se. They're doing things well. They've gone through some change. They've gone through some hardship, or they're scaling, and they're looking for a way to now invest in their people, grow their people, fine-tune communication channels. And I think, an example for me is I walked into a large organization, 200 plus people, doing extremely well, have just grown in personnel, have just grown in jobs, and you walk in and go, well, what am I here to do? But when you start to be a fly on the wall per se, and that's our job, to ask better quality questions, be curious, to have an assumption of good. But when you're in a fly on the wall, a lot, what gets said around a water cooler, and what gets said when people are coming into and out of, the way that people interact, the way that they communicate with one another, the way that they show up. Is it an exhausted energy? Is it an energized energy? Is it one with spring in their step? Is it one where the talking is positive, or is it a little bit mundane and we're just yes boss, 3 bags full boss? So you walk in there and you sort of just watch, observe, feel. We're a big organization that's about the energy that we feel within an organization. And I think little simple things like go direct. There's a common enemy intimacy, and you see it a lot in business where, Matt, what about Matt? He's doing my head in, he's not doing this. And you can start to get caught in that, I'll form a friendship with you through a common enemy. And so being observant of those little things, and then how do you create little tweaks? So you try to see if people are withdrawing. if leaders are starting to question about our engagement isn't as high as it is, we've got only the same people speaking, we've got a quiet group and we allow that to stay quiet. All those are the things that you observe. And I think when you go in there, ultimately, when people disconnect gradually, people disconnect gradually, not just like that.
Yeah.
It's a gradual decline. So you want to ask that, be curious, and go into an organisation, and then ultimately, we have a belief that leadership starts with self. Who are you? Who are the people on your right, your left, your forward, and your back? And how do you understand and hear and connect with them on a deeper level? We're in the business of relationships. And then ultimately, how do you communicate? How do you talk about culture? What are your values? I think a lot of businesses have values on a wall, but what does it actually mean? Like if I said to you right now, oh, as a podcast, we're going to have a value of respect. Great. It's awesome. But what's your definition of respect? What's my definition of respect? What's the definition of respect of this podcast? And being clear on what it means to live that. And so we try to go in there and go, what are the business values? What do you want to hold yourself to account to? What do you want to live and breathe? What are you looking for? What are you rewarding? How are you looking for the good in these people? And then ultimately allowing that to then align with the vision, the mission of the business leaders and go from there. And I think the biggest cut through you can have is ideally in businesses, you want the execs or the senior leadership team to be working on the business, and you want the middle management and that middle team to be working in the business. And how do you provide space for that? And I think, yeah, it's a hard skill. I think it's something that we do very well because it's not a cookie cutter program. We're not a cookie cutter business. We're not cookie cutter in life. We've got 3 gentlemen on this podcast that are completely different. So how could I go, well, what works for this Matt works for that Matt. So it's about being curious, asking questions. And I think going in there, listening to the whispers before they become a scream. And that's how I would analyze it. It's going in there, asking really good questions. What are your challenges? What's your pain points? Where do you want to go? What's the future look like? How can we align our people on that mission and go on the journey together? And what truths need to be told, because, ultimately, like I said, it comes back to trust. And if you can live in a place where you trust or trusted, you're going to go a lot further to succeed.
Further together. It's also, just a point on that scaling, right? When you sort of run your own shop and you maybe 1 or 2 people in the business, your temperature checked on what's going on is quite easy to do.
Of course.
As soon as you said you might have a few more buddies, it doesn't even need to be that many more people involved. You're not always as dialed in. And that's why sometimes you can understand why organizations grow, but you got that disconnect. It's just, the maybe your C-suites might be, for all intents and purposes, wanting to dial in. You just don't get that access like you maybe would if it was a little bit smaller.
It's look, to bring it back to heart and to bring it back to love. Like, we've got 3 brains, we've got a gut, we've got a heart, and we've got a head. And unfortunately, many of us are led by a head. And we've got beliefs and stories and things that we've told ourselves since we were knee highs to a grasshopper that are so innate in our beliefs and our life that we can't break them. But sometimes you've got to trust your gut and your heart. And I think, when you bring back to the why behind you're there, most businesses will then find a way to succeed. It's when you lose your why and you go to what we call asking a how question. When you ask a how question, the energy behind the question gets amplified. And not many people ask a how question in a calm state. How am I going to get that done? How am I going to succeed at that? That amplifies anxiety, stress, pressure, which then amplifies more and more and more. And then that radiates throughout your people. So it's about coming back to, like, why am I in this business? Why do I do what I do? Why is it important to me? i.e. property. Why am I property? Why am I in property? What's important to me? Why am I investing in property? If you can start to come back to the why behind, ultimately then tough decisions become easy. Communication becomes clearer. And we actually see that the world's not as scarcity as we get told it is. It's actually, there's an abundance of it out there. But it's not the narrative that suits the story. And I think that's where I go. If you can fall back to your heart and you can fall back into a place of love, calmness, stillness, certainty, as a business leader, as a person in society, I think then ultimately that creates the workplace culture that you want to create. Because people, you've heard of Simon Sinek, start with why. Great. And I think that's a great spot to start. And I think that's when you're scaling, going the opposite way and going smaller. You're going through change. You're adding a new tool to your repertoire. If it sits with your why, it'll work. You'll find a way to succeed at it. You'll find those around you that lean into that. And ultimately that'll lead to business success, personal success, life success.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Pardon me. So yeah, in property, we manage assets, but ultimately, it's a people job. So a lot of people think, property, even the best sales agents, they're people, right? So based on your work at Elevation Company, how do you coach leaders to? You've sort of touched on a bit already, but just move away from just ticking boxes and creating that people-led culture. You've sort of the values, I suppose, delivering that long-term value.
Well, like I said, people thrive when they feel valued, seen, heard, trusted, loved for who they are. And I think the way that we try to help business leaders or leaders in society is by being true to your true north. What's your North Star? What are your values? What are you passionate about? Who are you as a human being?
So it's often just working with the leaders first when you come in. Is that
they're usually the decision makers within an organisation, and it's about understanding them because the fish rots from the head down, and I say that
regularly as well.
I say that with respect because the fish also succeeds most likely from the head down with the support of the tail. And I go, so usually you go in and ask the leaders of the questions, but what we like to do is, and some leaders do and some leaders don't, but you ask the next level down, or if you've got a hierarchy, or the next level across, or the janitor of a business, what do you see? Because we're all part of it. We're all representing it. And I think, many leaders are operationally very strong. Like they know their business, they know their industry.
Got them there, right?
That's what's got them there.
The technician,
where they fall, or not fall, where they want to create, where gaps can.
Well, often haven't been upskilled, have they? Right? Like I think leadership again, unless you've actually, it's like a skill. Just like unless you've worked on it, practiced it, trained it, you're not going to be as good at it as the technical skills that got you to that position in the first place. Normally, that's the way it is.
And we do a little activity with some of the leaders that we do. It's just called our 10 key voices, and I'm giving away a bit of IP here. But you go, who are the 10 key voices that have influenced who you are today in a leadership capacity? And it's amazing how many people have 3, 4, 5 people from a negative aspect. I don't want to be like that person, or they've spoken to me in a way that I don't respect. So again, all of our stories, all of our eyes take in all of these learnings from when we were starting out to where we are now as successful.
Our brain remembers that negative, right? So that negative.
Well, more clearer as well.
It's like open loops. If I sat here and said, Matt, I need to talk to you at the end of the day, and then walked out, you're not filling that loop with positivity.
Good.
You're not sitting around skipping.
You're not looking forward to that.
No. You sit there and go, in terms of culture, something so simple has a massive ramification on business culture because now your capacity for the day is 100% going to decrease. You're sitting there going, I'm getting fired, so stuff it. I don't care how well I do this job, or I'm getting demoted, or whatever it is, or I'm getting a performance review or a performance development, and then they come in and they go, oh, look, you're doing a phenomenal job, fully love it, But we don't. Our brain is naturally wired to fill the open loop with a negative concept. So these are the things that you work with leaders. It's about, we're 100% responsible for the outcomes of our communication. I can't put an emotion in any of you men. I can say something that might trigger you, but you put that emotion in you. It's
our own connotation that the meaning we give to the.
So as business leaders, how are we being 100% responsible for our communication, for the outcomes of our communication? And then they're the systems and the processes and the procedures that we put in place from a people perspective to ultimately help everyone succeed. And that's, like I said, my job is to be a fly on the wall. And flies can tell a million stories. And I think that's where leadership energy sets the cultural tone. And I think when you can go in there and work alongside, upskill, and one of the things that we pride ourselves on is the legacy that we leave behind is here's our tools. Who can we coach? Who can come and take over our job? Because ultimately we don't want to be there forever, but we want to leave the impact behind and leave the ripple behind. And I think that's the biggest one. And I think, work with the leaders, to allow people to bring their true self. Why wear a mask? It's hard enough being me, let alone trying to be three different people that I'm not. It is. And I think that's the joys of the life that we live in.
True. Just on an interesting point you raised, like around intentional communication, because, you know, that leader might be thinking, great, I'm going to see them at the end of the day. I'm going to finish this off on a positive note and tell them how well they've done going home. Meanwhile, on the other side, you've naturally gone, oh, I'm receiving some negative feedback, or potentially, by not having that clear communication, right? But it's
a simple story, and I'll be short and sharp. I was on a golf course. I stayed around for a feed afterwards. I sent my wife a message saying, hey, I'm just going to be an hour later than what I said. I got the thumbs up. That's all I got, a thumbs up. My wife never gives me the thumbs up. I naturally think I'm in the doghouse. I'm in the wrong. So I sort stuff it. I'm going to stay for a little bit longer. I'm already in the doghouse. I'm going to stay for a little bit longer. I get home to a half melted candle, cold food on the dining table, where she'd provided me with a space of a loving dinner that she wanted to just have me and her, got our daughter taken out to the father-in-laws. I miss out on that dinner. I'm now and I said to her, what's happened? She goes, babe, I was in the kitchen cooking. I didn't have time to give you a full, and you just go, well, that's how easy communication or loops can be filled in our own head. Because I was never in the doghouse. I was loved and I was coming home to a beautiful dinner, and you just go, and now that's a silly example of how simple it can happen in businesses.
We pick up on trends and themes of how people operate, and as soon as it's just out the norm, you immediately might bridge the gap into something that's not necessarily a positive response.
Well, don't ask the question of how you're going if you don't really care about the answer. And how often do we naturally do it? Hey, how are you? And we just keep walking past. And you go, well, don't ask. Hey, good to see you. Farewell. It's the old analogy. How many times do we catch up with our friends and family and go, oh, we should do this again sometime? You never do.
It's hollow. Yeah.
Just put a date in.
Either do that and put a date in, or just go, hey, it was lovely to see you. Awkward pause. See you later. But again, you are 100% responsible for the outcomes of our communication. And I think that's a big thing for leadership in life.
That's true. Sometimes you reply to events. Nothing wrong with the event. You don't necessarily you don't have capacity, and then you get there and you think, I should have just not come. Not because it's it just might just be, I just do not have capacity. But that's life, right?
And how many business leaders fill their cup first? And we have 3 cups of water in front of us right now, and Maddie, yours is slightly lower than ours. If you keep drinking a little bit more, and then I ask for more of Maddie, what can you give me?
Yep.
And I think that's something that we try to encourage people as business leaders, life leaders, community leaders. It's make sure you fill your cup first. And me being a man saying that, most men would say, I'll do anything for family and friends and all of these things. And I go, that's great. What about if you did what they wanted most and filled your cup first, so that the dad that they're getting, the son that they're getting, the husband that they're getting, wife, I've never been a female, so I can't say I can speak on their behalf, but fill your cup first so the world's getting the best of you. And that's what you've got to try to do as a business leader. We've touched on it, busy, busy, busy. How do you find time to fill your cup first? And I think that's
got to be a bit
what we try to do.
With your time as well.
Yeah, but is it selfish?
Yeah,
that's my curiosity.
Well, maybe diving into something that's sort of the theme of life, we're going to just touch on some of the community aspects. So going back to M.E.N.
Yep.
So on the property space, when we go into transactional properties looking to, we'll typically look and get title insurance is almost a bit of a safety net. Something goes wrong, post-settlement, you've got that in the back of your mind in terms of as a bit of a fallback card. In life, you might look at your safety net as potentially your network. Things are going, typically people want to lean on things when things aren't going well. What's your support system? What's that ecosystem around you? Talk to us a little bit about M.E.N, just in terms of the initiative, what you've looked to create and foster there, and why it's important specifically for men looking to navigate their own, high pressure environments in today's day and age.
I can probably sum this up in a very short sentence. The number's just gone from 6 to 7. 7 Australian men take their life every day here in Australia. That's 7 of our mates, that's 7 of our brothers, that's 7 of our fathers, that's 7 of our sons that take their life here every day in Australia. Domestic violence is going through the roof here in Australia. So the reasoning behind Men is it's my way to play my part to create a change. And I think at the moment, many of us think if we do the same thing, we'll get different results. But unfortunately, we're not. And I think at the moment, in the world that we live in, the word called vulnerability, the big V, is now seen as weakness. It's seen as something that most men shy away from. And I think it's probably one of the most powerful traits that we can have. I look at the word masculinity. Masculinity is a beautiful thing, and we need more masculinity in this world. But in society, it's now been tarnished with the word toxic. There's beautiful masculinity, there's toxic people. Just like there's beautiful femininity and there's toxic femininity. And so my thing was, if not me, then who? And I wanted to create a space where men can slow down, connect to a brotherhood of like-minded men looking to do things differently, looking to start the conversations around redefining success. When you're in pain, who do you turn to? How do you call upon your mates? In a world where we are so driven, just keep it to ourselves, and create a space where men can come together, unite, no judgment, just, to be honest, not even trying to provide solutions for each other, because if I'm honest, most of us have the answers. We just need someone to have a talk to. And unfortunately, unlike women, we don't go and catch up at a cafe and talk real and be honest and be truthful.
I spend my time at cafes a lot, and there's a lot of women, there's not a lot of men there.
Yeah.
So,
so this is a space where I think, well, the biggest investment we can make is that in ourselves. So M.E.N we catch up once a month for 90 minutes, the last Wednesday of every month. It's all online because there's no excuses. Everyone's got technology these days. You can come from any state, any country, and unite. And we talk about topics that influence the lives of men in 5 sort of main areas: your personal health, both professional and mental, your partner, your parenting. If you're not a partner or a parent, you can mentor, or who do you mentor, or who's an important relationship in your in your life. How do you play, which means fill up your own cup a little bit, and your profession. And we explore areas that can influence that. We talk the talk, we share stories, ultimately provide a space where men can be their real selves for 90 minutes. And then we have a few little implementations, a WhatsApp chat where we can just celebrate each other as we go along the month ahead. And I think realistically, if my call out to men listening is, we've got to do things differently, because I'm sick of seeing that number go up, and I'm sick of seeing the beautiful women in our lives get impacted by it. So let's try to do something different. Let's do it together, because it's a journey together so much more fun.
Well, Dennis, thank you for joining us on the Property and Coffee podcast today and sharing a bit of insights on your previous footy career, what you're getting up to in business today, and also fronts of mind specifically around how we're looking to help strengthen the community or men community in terms of to make sure that number that statistic that you highlighted doesn't increase. If anything, goes the other way.
No, look, Matt, I think it's thank you for the privilege to be here. Thank you for the opportunity to talk. Hopefully, people got their 1 or 2 or 3 or 4% for them, because we are all human beings and we do things differently, and we'll take what we need to take and implement in our day-to-day. And again, I just couldn't say thank you enough for giving me the opportunity.
Oh, thanks for coming on, mate. Some great insights, and I think everyone will enjoy it today. So thanks again.
Thank you.
If you would like to keep receiving property insights and golden nuggets from our guests, please do follow us, and you'll get the latest episode released on a fortnightly basis.